All right, so I think I'm good to go here. I think we're good to go. So this is definitely kind of an informal video in the sense of I've not totally organized my information. Basically, I'll just explain what I've got set up. I've got a little AI here, so it's just a local AI, and I'm using Llama 3.3, 70 billion parameters. And basically what I was doing is I was kind of looking at some stuff, checking into some things. I'm pretty into spiritualism, or I'm not even sure what to say. I'm into checking out a bunch of that stuff. So as I was looking into stuff, I kind of came across something called biophotons. And there are bioelectrons as well. I actually just was finding out about that. So I am not an expert, and this is not expert information by any means. I am just, I'm literally just checking into this, and I find it extremely interesting. So I figured I would make a video. So basically what I'm going to be looking at here is that AI chat that I have where I was just kind of, asking some questions that I had and stuff like that. So, basically what is a biophoton? Well, it's like a light that is emitted from within the body. It's like so from my understanding, like calories are burned, it's like 1 calorie is equal to a certain amount of heat generation or something along those lines. So I think that like the biophoton light, because photon is a particle of light, either this is part of that combustion or is the combustion. Part of or is, I have no idea. But so what it says here, biophotons are it's an ultra weak photon emission from a living organism. Okay? So I find that crazy, dude. What? So it's apparently they were discovered in 1920s in the scientific field. So a couple of the potential applications that this says is cellular communication, and then, cancer research, stress, disease monitoring. But check this out, quantum biology. So there's a lot of quantum information or speculation regarding quantum properties or like quantum functions relative to biophotons. So there's a whole bunch of stuff here, but let's see. So this Fritz Albert Popp guy, I'm not sure who that is, if that's just a researcher, but he says that that's they're fundamental aspect of living systems. It's crazy because I've never heard of a biophoton before. I'm not going to say that no one's ever told me about it, but I don't remember. It's never like stuck in my head. So, there's some key researchers here. So another one is Roland van Wijk. All right, but anyways, I'm just going to kind of skip to, some of the interesting stuff. So one of the first things that came to my mind was biophoton emission as a component of an aura. And I did a little looking on the internet, and there was there were a couple places. There's like this BioWell camera. So it's called an electrophotonic imaging system. So that's interesting, where this is apparently potentially able to measure the emission of biophotons from the body. And then you could potentially analyze that. Okay, so it was biophoton emission as a component of the aura. Next in line, we have aura as a biophoton-mediated communication network. I mean, the thing is to me, so I kind of got into the theory of relativity with Albert Einstein a while ago. It was like when I was driving back and forth from like my hometown to where I was going to college, and on that car ride, I was always trying to be smart, you know? So I was like, oh, I'm gonna listen to some audiobooks. This was way, way, way back. You know, not that audiobooks weren't a thing back then, but they definitely weren't what they are now. But so back then I would listen to the theory of relativity. It was some audiobook that I got off the internet, and that got me into like time dilation, perspectives, like the viewer perspectives, and then it just kind of opened me up, and then I wound up diving into quantum mechanics, not professionally by any means, but just as an actual interest. So again, when I hear of a photon, you know, one of the big things that I think about is the double slit experiment, where photons were acting as both a particle and a wave, but its action depended on like an observer observing it. So anytime that I'm thinking about a photon, I'm thinking about the double slit experiment and what that potentially means. So when I'm thinking about us measuring biophotons, which are like life photons, I get very interested, because it's like, well, we're looking at it when we are measuring it with one of these electrophotonic imaging systems. That's a measurement. That's an observation of it. So what would happen if what happens when we're not looking at that? That's super interesting to me. Okay, so those were like the first two speculative ideas. Now, I kind of went into a lot of interesting questions on here, and you'll kind of get my speculations in these responses here. So those were the first two. So the third one, was emotional and mental states influencing biophoton emissions. There we go, emotional and mental states, because when we talk about like things having an effect, our heart is more powerful magnetically than our brain. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think there's some sort of like electromagnetic coherence system that takes place. So a lot of people would, feel good around people or feel bad. And this is almost like you could potentially be influencing your own biophoton emission in your body with your own thoughts and feelings. That's pretty crazy. Possibly. So biophotons as a bridge between physical and spiritual realms. Yeah, I didn't even read this before I started talking about it. That's crazy. That is crazy. How could I think about that? I watched this, I think it was Veritasium did a video about rainbows, and there was a portion in that video where he talked about double rainbows, and if the conditions are optimal, you would be able to see endless rainbows if the conditions were optimal. So realms, I kind of saw that as realms, like the first rainbow is kind of one realm, and then the second rainbow is another realm. It's a weaker realm. It's not as strong. The colors aren't as strong, but it is a realm. So that would kind of be like physical and spiritual. Physical being like the first rainbow, and maybe spiritual being the second rainbow. I'm just totally, just talking. I have no idea. So it continues on, oral reading and biophoton analysis. That's I'm not sure what to say about that really. Biophotons and the chakra system. That is interesting. The different chakra centers of energy centers in the body. I wonder if there are potentially different biophoton properties in or corresponding to the different chakras, or if you could maybe through emotional and mental states influence your energy centers, which maybe function from biophotons and or bioelectrons, because that's a thing too. Okay, so that was biophotons and the human aura. Okay, so now we're going to transition into kind of a merging of fields, I guess you could say. Sound waves, light waves, radio waves. We're kind of getting into that. So this one is cymatics, sound frequencies, and biophotons. So cymatics is the study of sound-induced patterns on a surface. So like sand on that platter, and then at different frequencies, forms different shapes. Hopefully once I am going to do better videos, and I'm going to include more stuff later on, but for right now, we're kind of just doing it this way. Okay, so resonance and the human body, sound frequencies affecting physical and emotional states. So to me, that's where, it's possible that the resonance from sound frequencies could have, or the sound frequencies could have some sort of resonant effect, possibly on the biophotons. So then we've got cymatic patterns in the body, saying potential relationship with biophoton emissions. So for me, that means, when I was watching that rainbow video, he talked about caustics. So a caustic was like the light waves shining through a medium and then reflected off of a surface. So the concentrated light waves that were reflecting through a medium, or going through a medium, it would form like a bright light at the bottom, because you'd have like a wave would come up, the light would kind of enter at the peak of the wave, and then you get a concentration of light that would then hit the bottom. So I was thinking, if you had sound waves going and they were potentially vibrating and resonating your cells, which is 60% water inside the body, I thought that there was some potential for manipulation of the biophotons properties with what you're doing. I have no idea. Again, that would just be that's just a speculation that I had. I just was watching that rainbow video and I was like, man, that's crazy. I even looked up, I didn't see a word for caustic in the sound wave category. I won't go down that. I had some thoughts on that, but so anyways, we're going to continue on here. There's just a little more. So biophoton emission and coherence, research on coherence properties of biophotons. Basically, I told AI to just give me some talking points and then I was going to expand on them. To be honest, I don't really know how to expand on the coherence properties of biophotons, nor do I know how to discuss nonlinear dynamics. So this would be the study of complex behavior in sound-induced patterns. Well, maybe that's actually what I was kind of just talking about. Water's role in biophoton emission and cymatics, potential relationship between water structure and biophoton emissions. That's what I was talking about. I'm just going to see if there's anything else here. Man, there was some other crazy stuff that it was talking about. Let me go ahead and I'm just going to quick read into some of this. So this was as I was kind of diving into the biophotons and sound. So this is what it's going to say here. So coherence in biophoton emissions. Coherence refers to the correlation between photons emitted by living organism, which can be characterized by their phase, frequency, or polarization. Research has shown that biophotons emitted by cells, tissues, and even entire organisms exhibit coherence properties, including spatial coherence. Photons emitted from different parts of an organism are correlated in terms of their spatial distribution. That's crazy. Temporal coherence. We're getting a lot of coherence here. Photons emitted at different times are correlated in terms of their temporal distribution. Okay, and then the third thing is polarization coherence. Photons emitted with specific polarization states are correlated, reflecting the organized structure and function of biological systems. Holy crap. I'm just going to read just a couple more things, even if this video goes on a little long. Check this stuff out. This is crazy. Biological significance of coherence. The coherence properties of biophoton emissions are thought to be related to the organized structure and function of biological systems. This includes cellular communication. Coherent biophotons might play a role in cell-to-cell communication, facilitating the exchange of information between cells. Holy crap. Wow. Number 2, tissue organization. Coherence could be related to the spatial organization of tissues, influencing the development and maintenance of tissue structure. What? Third, organism-wide coordination. Coherent biophoton emissions might be involved in coordinating processes across an entire organism, such as regulating circadian rhythms or responding to environmental stimuli. That's crazy. I'm just going to reread that. Organism-wide coordination. Coherent biophoton emissions might be involved in coordinating processes across an entire organism, such as regulating circadian rhythm or responding to environmental stimuli. That's crazy. We've got a few more things that I'm going to run through them because, man. Okay, so sound-induced cymatic patterns and coherence. Okay, so this is AI saying this. Now let's consider how sound-induced cymatic patterns might influence biophoton emission coherence. This is what I was kind of talking about. And this is where I have an idea, but I don't know how to even think about it, man. So I'm trying to learn. So we'll start. There are 3 points on that. So cymatic patterns could modulate coherence. Sound frequencies and the resulting cymatic patterns might interact with biological systems, modulating the coherence properties of biophoton emissions. Number 2, coherence could be entrained by sound. The coherent properties of biophotons could become entrained or synchronized with sound frequencies, potentially leading to changes in the information encoded in the biophotons. What? Dude, that is crazy. Okay, and then number 3, cymatic patterns could create coherence. Sound-induced cymatic patterns might even generate coherence in biophoton emissions where none existed before by introducing a structured pattern that influences photon correlations. Dude, oh my gosh. I've got 2 more topics, 5 points total. We're going through this. Man, this is crazy. I didn't even read all of this stuff yet. I kind of was just, I wanted to make a video. You know, I kind of said I was going to make a video. So I'm like, all right, I'm just going to dive into it and get started. So the next one, this is super interesting too. Information encoding and decoding. If sound-induced cymatic patterns could indeed influence biophoton emission coherence, it's possible that this could affect the information encoded in the biophotons. This raises questions about, and we're going to get into that. So that's kind of a dive into one of the other topics. So there are 2 points here. How is information encoded in biophotons? I don't know. What aspects of biological systems or environmental stimuli are reflected in the coherent properties of biophoton emissions? I don't know. Can sound frequencies be used to decode the biophoton information? I don't know. Might it be possible to use specific sound frequencies to extract or influence the information encoded in biophotons? Potentially even for therapeutic applications. That's kind of what I see. I mean, there's like a bioelectric something. I can't remember, but there's a cool word for red light therapy. And this, I think it has something to do with this. Okay, so this says experimental approaches to experiment or to investigate these ideas further. Okay, those are speculations. But anyways, man, holy cow, that is just a very interesting topic. And I didn't even get into my bioelectron thing. Here we go. Okay, so let me just... Bioelectrons, a hypothetical concept referring to electrons emitted by living organisms. Proposed as a potential form of biological communication or energy transfer. Research on bioelectrons is limited. Dude, all that I'm saying is we got bioelectrons, we got biophotons, and no one really knows what exactly is going on. And that's crazy. So, I don't know, man. I find it very interesting, and it's kind of fun to check into and think about. So there we are. That's just an intro to biophotons. So that'd be part 1. Biophotons part 1.